startups and the difficulties the startups can face. First of all, what is a startup? Is it somebody starting the business for the first time, or is it the business itself new in the field? So if somebody starts the business for the first time, we don't call it a startup. We call it a startup when the business itself is new in the field. Let's say we didn't have the mobile phones before and somebody started mobile phone production for the first time. So that business will be considered a startup. Startups do face difficult problems, and one of them will be the competition. Since they are new in the field, they will face higher rates of competition, and the risks for the startup will be higher because, again, they are new. We don't have the experience related to this field, related to the decision making required experience in this field. So we do lack the experience that might be needed for this business, since again this is new. So the chances of failure might be higher than the traditional businesses. Okay, so is competition the only problem that the startups can face? No, of course, we'll have different other types of problems like building a customer base, lack of record keeping, lack of working capital, besides poor management skills. But when we say poor management skills, we don't only mean the executive activities. We mean leadership skills, we mean cash handling, cash management skills, planning and coordinating skills, decision making, communication skills, marketing, promotion, and selling skills. Among all these, we'll be talking about each in different sections of this course, but for the time being, I'd like to draw attention to the cash handling, and I would like to emphasize the reason why cash is that much important for the businesses, for the companies. From the course of economics, some of you might be familiar with the concept of liquidity. Liquidity means the highest percentage of spendability. If this money is easy to spend, so this is quick to spend, and then this is higher rate of liquidity. For example, you can have a car, you can have a bank account, a deposit account, you can have the company building, and you can have your home, and you can have cash. Among all of this, cash will have the highest liquidity because it is easy to spend. So when you go to the market, you can easily buy whatever you want, or when you go to buy the car, you can easily buy that car when you have the cash in hand. But if you have your own car and you want to change that car with the new one, so you have to find somebody who agrees with these terms, this and that. So it will take a longer while. That's why we consider cash to have the highest liquidity. Okay, that's clear, but why do the businesses want to have the cash in hand? Why do the businesses want to spend money this much? The issue is the business means risk, and risk means the chance, the opportunity to grow, the opportunity for the better, let's say. The businesses do quite often get these kinds of opportunities, and most of the time, since they're competing all the time, most of the time success comes for the one who can catch that opportunity. So the opportunity will be more available for the ones who do have the cash in hand. So that's the reason why most of the businesses, if not all, do focus on having cash in hand, just to catch the opportunities on time. Okay, now we are going to talk about profit-based organizations and their types. We have sole traders, we have partnerships, we have limited companies and cooperatives. About limited companies, we have two types, private limited and public limited companies. Let's start with sole traders. What is a sole trader? Sorry. Okay, sole trader is when Jack wants to start selling shoes on Instagram, let's say, and he will be the only one who invests in this business. He needs to have $4,000 to start this business, let's say, and only Jack will invest this money, like $4,000. Nobody else will invest in this business. So, and when he makes profit, Jack will take all the money, all the profit himself. Let's say he started this business, he invested $4,000, he had his company, he had his page on Instagram, and he started selling shoes, this and that, and at the end of the month he made, let's say, $20,000. So he invested $4,000 and he took $20,000 for the first month. So he took all the money himself because he's a sole trader. Sole trader means he's alone. The only one person we have to invest in the business, to take all the responsibility related to that business, to make all the business decisions, and to take all the profit from that business. So if we have sole traders, does that mean that they cannot hire the other people, like they cannot have the employees? No, of course they can hire the other people, but they will pay the salaries for those people. Let's say Jack started his shoe selling business, but he didn't have time to do the marketing stuff on Instagram. So he hired somebody else and he paid $200 per month for him to, let's say, answer the questions, or maybe to share some posts on Instagram, this and that. So he pays the salary for the employee that he has hired, let's say Tom. But he doesn't, like Tom doesn't make any decisions related to the investment or related to the business in general. He only makes the decisions that are related to his own field, like answering the questions or sharing the posts, this and that, but still under the control of the owner. So the owner in this case is Jack. So what is a sole trader? Sole trader is when we have one individual starting the business, investing for that business, taking all the responsibility related to that business, making all the decisions on his own, so no shared decision making, and getting all the profit from that business. Is it good? It's excellent. But there are some negative things as well. So what is bad? What is the negative side of being a sole trader or having the sole trader company? First of all, sole traders don't have the companies, don't have the legal personality. This is Jack's business. In case Jack fails, let's say Jack continued working. In the first month, he made $20,000, and in the second month, he lost $40,000. So, in case he makes the loss, there is nobody else to cover this cost. And if he doesn't have that money, in that case, his personal assets can be taken. Let's say if he has money in his bank account, or if he has his home, car, or whatever, his personal assets will be taken to cover this debt. So that is the negative side of having the sole trader type of business. So when we have partnerships, it is the same as sole traders. But the only thing that makes it different from sole traders is that you share everything. In partnerships, you share your responsibilities with your partner, you share your, let's say, investment with your partner, you share your profits with your partner, and you share the decision making as well. Like, you decide together with your partner. Let's say in the second case scenario, we have the partnership type of business, and Joan starts his business with Jack. So Joan and Jack are the partners. Can they be only two? Yes. But do they have to be only two? No. There can be 3, 4 partners at the same time. But in our example, to make it easy, let's say we have 2 people. So we have Jack and Joan sharing this business. So when they start, they need $4,000 as a kind of investment. So Joan will pay $2,000 and Jack will pay $2,000. Again, depends on the agreement. They can decide for Jack to give $1,000, for Joan to give $3,000 as well. So that will be their shares. So if he invests more, it means he takes more roles in decision making, or he's going to take higher share of the profit. as well. So in partnership, investment will be shared. John and Jack shared their costs, like the investment. And they made $20,000 at the end of the month. Joan will take $10,000 and Jack will take $10,000 as well. So they are going to share their profits. They are going to share every decision. That's like they're going to decide together. They will share the decision-making process. So we have shared decision-making in the partnerships. Simply, you share everything. In case the business fails, again, since the business does not have legal personality, the government can take Jones and Jack's personal assets. His car, home, their car, home, their bank accounts, their money in the bank account can be taken in case they fail. Because it's not company A or company B. This is Jack and Jones company. So that is the negative side of partnership. Another negative issue for sole trader and partnership types of businesses, companies, could be difficulty in attracting the investors. Since these types of businesses do not have the legal personality, the investor does not invest in the company. The investor invests in this business. Let's say in the sole trader we have Jack, in partnership we have Jack and Joan, and if we attract the investor has to invest in Joan. So what if Joan dies? The business will stop. So no investor takes the risk to invest in the person or to invest in several people. So for example, if we have the sole trader type of company, in case Joan dies or something happens to Joan, the business stops. Or if we have partnership and one of the partners leaves, in that case the business stops. Or if something happens to the partners, if one of them dies, the business stops. So that is the reason why it becomes really difficult for sole traders and partnerships to attract the investors. The third type of business will be limited companies. The third type of organization, private sector organization. Limited companies do have two types, as we said. They are private and public limited companies. What makes limited companies better than sole traders and partnerships is that the company does have legal personality. For example, when we say Apple, when we say Amazon, when we say Google, when we say Microsoft, these are the businesses operating. In case Microsoft fails, since Microsoft has a legal personality, nobody will take Bill Gates' personal assets. They cannot even take a coin from Bill Gates. Simply because this is not the sole trader, this is not Bill Gates failing, this is Microsoft failing. So in case of having limited companies, the good thing here is that the company itself, the business itself, does have the legal personality. So we sue the company in case of having any illegal activity. Or when the company fails, not the owner. What makes it difficult? And it's very easy for the limited companies to attract the investors. Since the investors is going to invest in the business, when the owner dies, the business continues. We can take the example of Apple, for example. Steve Jobs was the founder, he died, but Apple continues, right? And many other businesses, like almost all the businesses. All the limited companies in the world. So, the thing that makes it difficult compared to sole traders or partnerships, you have a lot of paperwork to do, like documentation, this and that, and it can be a little bit kind of costly compared to sole traders and partnerships. What usually happens if you don't have, if this is a middle size or small size, sorry. If this is a middle-sized or small-sized business, then most of the entrepreneurs will choose to start as a partnership type or as a sole trader type of business. And then when they see the business succeeding, they will move to the limited type of companies. For private and public limited companies, what is the difference between public limited and private limited companies? Private limited companies are not open to general public. What does that mean? We talked about the investors, like they are really motivated to invest in limited types of companies. If we have public limited company, it means any person on earth having money can invest in this company, can buy the shares from this company. But if we have private limited company, usually the owners of the company will be the family members, the close relatives. So it's not open to general public. Like if we have the company, private limited company in, let's say, Russia, somebody living in Japan and not having anything related to this family that are the ones owning the company will not be able to buy the shares of this company. But if we have public limited company in Canada and we have somebody living in, I don't know, China, that person will easily be able to buy the shares of this company in case he has the money and he's interested in buying the shares of this company. Okay, these are the major differences we needed to know about partnerships, about limited companies and public and private limited companies. So the good thing about limited companies was that we do keep our personal assets in having limited companies. All right. Okay. But we have more legal formalities for the limited companies. Okay, what about public limited companies and public corporations? What is the difference between them? Public limited companies are in the private sector of industry, but public corporations are in the public sector of industry. That is the keynote to remember. And public sector organizations may have the profit incentive, but it's not always so. When we talked about the private NGOs, let's say non-government organizations or non-profit-based organizations, we said that they are either not motivated by the profits at all, or they are not only motivated by the profits. Like sometimes they do make profit, but that's not their sole motivation, sole incentive. So they do have more social objectives than financial goals. Okay, so let's talk about these non-governmental, non-profit organizations. Okay, let's start with pressure groups. So what are the pressure groups? Pressure groups are the companies, are the organizations that have social objectives, like protecting the community, like protecting the environment, protecting might be the consumers, might be the, I wouldn't say they would protect the businesses or the government, but they would protect the community in general. So do they focus on the businesses only? No. Pressure groups can focus on the government if they see government having the wrong policy as a result of which environment gets harmed, or as a result of which the customers do suffer or the people suffer, etc., etc. So in this case, pressure groups do focus on the government activities to have some pressure on them to change this policy. This is the first category. Second category, they can focus on the businesses. In case, let's say we have company A producing a lot of plastic products, so since they harm the environment, the pressure groups can focus on the businesses of this type. Or let's say there is a business that is dealing with alcohol, or I don't know, maybe drugs, this and that. In one way or another, the business harms the society, harms the community, environment, people, social standards, this and that. So social norms. So in this case, the pressure groups do focus on the businesses so that they can change their activities, business activities. Or that is not the only category that they focus on. So they focus on government, they focus on businesses, they also focus on the customers, the consumers. In case they realize, the pressure groups realize that this is the consumers' that demand this much plastic to be produced. In that case, they do try to affect the consumers so that they start buying less of the plastic or the items of this kind, so that the businesses stop producing these goods and services, providing these goods and services. So what are the examples of pressure groups? Might be Greenpeace, might be WWF, might be Amnesty International, and many others. So how do they do this? How do they affect the government? How do they affect the businesses or the consumers? So they have several ways to do it. First might be publicity through media coverage. Now it might be the social media, Instagram, Facebook, and many others. Or might be using radio channels, TV channels, and so on. Or influencing consumer behavior can be the other way to realize their goals, or lobbying of government. Okay. What about social enterprises? What kinds of goals do they have? They can have economic goals, they can have social goals, and environmental goals. So economic goal might be to make a profit or surplus, to reinvest. So when they make money, the purpose is not to get that money from the business. The purpose for social enterprise might be to get some money to survive and to reinvest in that business again, in that social enterprise again. Social goals, social objectives might be to provide jobs for people or to support the local community. And environmental objectives, of course, to protect the environment from any kind of harm. Okay. What about partnership? Public-private partnership. Is it possible? Is it good? Is it bad? In which ways can it be possible? We have three different ways. We call them government-funded, private-funded, and government-directed, but with private sector finance and management. We know government revenue is the tax revenue. Like, government gets money from taxes. When we have private sector and public sector partnership, this has its own benefits, because sometimes there are some projects in which government is more experienced, or which can be financed easily by the government. Sometimes there are that kind of projects or businesses that would fit more in the private sector, or private sector individuals are more experienced than the government, or might be private sector individuals can, let's say, finance these projects. So if that is government providing the finance and the private sector doing the management part of the job, this is government funded, like the first category. If the opposite is true, like when the private sector provides the funding and the government does the job, then this is the second category of private-public partnership. And the third category will be when we have government directing, private sector taking the major role in funding and managing the job. So in these three ways, we have public-private partnership realized. So is it good or bad? Of course, as we mentioned, it is good because in some cases we need the experience from the government sector. In some cases we need the experience of the private sector in the field. And the good thing about private sector providing the finance is that the government doesn't need to increase the taxes since the private sector can provide the finance for this project or business in plan. Okay, that is it for today. Hope to see you in the other lessons.